Hello. Hello, Vishrant. It's a pleasure.
Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
A very peaceful place you've got.
It has an atmosphere of peacefulness. That's why we bought it.
I know, you feel kind of at ease just walking in.
Yeah.
So even if you do nothing thereafter, you already feel peaceful.
Yeah, that's right. That's what everyone comments about, the peacefulness here.
So firstly, thank you so much for taking out your time and sharing your thoughts with the audience here. I think the best place for me to start, and the question I really have, is how do you get to a state of where you are generally a present person? I imagine you're mostly present at all times.
Yes, I am. That comes from a childhood that was filled with violence. And for me, it wasn't safe for me to be a dreamer. It wasn't safe for me to not be present. And so from a very early age, I developed present moment awareness as a result of the environment I grew up in.
Are you able to elaborate what the environment was?
Well, it started with my parents, and then I moved to Roman Catholic boarding school, and because I was an obnoxious young man, and their way of treating me was with violence, I had to be careful of them. But I also had to be careful of all the bullies that were in boarding school. And so just a visit to the toilets was a dangerous episode back in those days. You had to have eyes in the back of your head. And so I developed present moment awareness as a result of trying to survive.
Why was it so bad, Vishrant? What made it such a hostile place to be?
I have such a big mouth.
It's worked in your favor after that part, but the initial part, yeah, unfortunately, I was the same. So I can relate.
Yeah, I've always told people what I think, and people don't like hearing what I think. They prefer convenient lies that back their belief systems coming out of my mouth, and I'm just not into it. I like the truth.
So very, very tough upbringing where there was a lot of violence, essentially a lot of bullying, not a stable foundation at that time where you just felt like you had to, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but fight to be someone that was seen, made you then go, I had to be present, to be aware.
Yeah, I was a fighter. I fought just about every day I was in school.
Oh, now I know how this video is going to end.
Oh no, I changed. Yeah, I trained in martial arts and I fought every day at school because the bullies would pick on it, the older kids would pick on you, the bullies would pick on you, and unless you stood up for yourself, it didn't stop. And so I trained myself into a weapon at a very young age.
And was this in primary, secondary schooling?
It was mostly in primary and secondary. You see, you can't delineate because I was in boarding school from grade 5.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this was Aquinas College here in Perth,
College,
right?
Here in Perth, yeah. Yeah, it was full of bullies. Well, I was an outsider as well because my parents lived in the city and they only lived a few kilometres away from the school. And I was one of the few boarders whose parents didn't live in the country. And so I was an outsider right from the beginning in boarding school because I should have been a day boy, but I wasn't because my parents had crisis happening because I had a sister who was intellectually handicapped, who was born, who was constantly having fits and convulsions, that is. And I was put in boarding school because I was a troublesome child. I was expelled from 4 kindergartens.
It's sad at that time that's how the coping mechanism was for you, but I guess that was the only option, right?
Well, I didn't think about it, I just survived. I just did what I needed to do to survive. And that was, I had to learn how to fight. And I had to fight because that was the only way to stop the bullies. There was no other way.
And you must have got hurt many times.
Not that many.
So you were a good fighter.
I was a good fighter, yeah. I was a good fighter, yeah, because I trained every day.
And then where to from there? What happened thereafter to get you where you are now?
Well, basically, I became a mechanic. I did an apprenticeship in mechanics and became a mechanic, and got fired because of my ferocious temper, and then got fired from every other job I had for my ferocious temper. And that's when I started to realise there was something wrong with the way I was operating in the world. And a couple of guys talked my girlfriend, who eventually became my wife, into doing an encounter group, a 4-day encounter group. And this 4-day encounter group cost, I think, $400. And back in the time when this was happening, that was like 4 weeks' wages. And I felt that she'd been ripped off. So I went in at the age of 19 with every intention of getting my money back off these guys, even if it meant beating them. And so I rock up, and there's 4 guys there in 3-piece suits. And I said, I'm here, I want the money back from my wife doing your retreat, and I want it now. And they said, why don't you do the retreat? Why don't you yourself do the retreat? And I said, I don't want to. And they said, why don't you want to? What if we let you have it for free? And I said, no, I don't want it. I want the money back. And they said, and this is where it got me, because I, in my own mind, was a hero. What are you frightened of, mate? And that incited me to go, I'm not frightened of anything. Well, why don't you do the group? Okay, I'll do the group. And that's where it began. And I did this 4-day encounter group, and the first day, we're sitting around in a circle, there's 25 of us, and we just filled in psychological forms, information basically, to give them. And the lights go out, and the room is totally dark, and the spotlight comes on, and it comes on me. And the first thing, some big guy steps forward and says, you, asshole, get out here. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of me doing encounter therapy, which took me apart and showed me how my mind was really ticking and gave me a huge advantage for the rest of my life.
That was here, also in Perth, or was it?
That was in Perth. And the funniest thing about that is the guys that were running the group, some of them ended up working for me. Because I was so taken by what they'd done for me, so taken by what I'd found inside myself, that I actually started working for them, selling their groups.
And what changed? What did you notice? Was it a level of detachment you could see as a third perspective what was happening internally?
I got a clean, clear understanding of victim-orientated thinking. My anger was a result of me blaming people and blaming situations. And I got introduced to the idea that to be a victim, you have to volunteer. Bad things can happen, but you have to volunteer to be a victim of them. And so I chose not to be a victim anymore. And about that time, all the anger ceased, because I would not support victim-orientated thinking, full stop. And that just changed my whole life. It gave me a whole new way of being in the world. But at that time, when I walked into the offices of these guys, I was in the gangs, I was on the streets. So I was a street warrior. And I changed from wearing black and studded belts and ripple-soled desert boots to actually wearing a 3-piece suit and selling these guys' course, because I was so taken by what it was. It was called the Greatness in You seminar.
Greatness in Youth?
Yeah, the Greatness in You seminar. It was a 4-day seminar originally produced by an organisation called Focal in Australia. And that was my beginning. That was the intervention that changed my whole life. Because I reckon if I had stayed on the streets in the gangs, I would have been dead within a few years or in prison. So it changed my whole life direction.
Amazing. You have that girlfriend and wife to thank at that point that made you go there to try and collect the money,
Yep.
which then became an intervention to actually change your mindset.
Yep, it was a perfect setup.
So that's been your wife ever since?
No. Once I put the three-piece suit on, she got a bit bored with me.
She wanted the gang life.
She wanted the gangster back again, you know. And so we didn't last longer than a year. And I went on to go into all sorts of different businesses, mostly publishing. I spent 10 years publishing, and I ended up very wealthy and very successful and retired when I was 28 years old.
Amazing. And that publishing business is what took you to Osho, because I've seen the video where you interviewed him.
Yeah, I was a publisher when I went to Osho. But what the publishing did is it gave me the money to travel the world, which allowed me to go to places like India and America and wherever it was happening, and pay. So that intervention that happened back when I was 19 set me up for a very different life. But because of Osho, because I was sitting in front of him, he changed my life. Because something happened inside of me about a year and a half after meeting him, where I started to find myself as the universe, which is a really weird thing to say, but I did. I started finding myself as the universe, and it changed my whole direction. I realized I'd climbed the top of the mountain in business because I had retired at a young age. I drove a Rolls Royce. I lived in a penthouse in Peppermint Grove. But there was another mountain to climb, the mountain of higher consciousness, the mountain towards enlightenment. And 𝐬𝐞𝐥𝐟-𝐢𝐧𝐪 showed me that mountain and introduced me to that mountain and gave me a little taste of it when I was talking to him. And that changed my life forever, because then I realised that making money isn't what we're here to do. Being successful in business isn't what we're here to do. Finding heart, finding love and serving that is what we're here to do. And so my whole life changed to one of serving heart. And to that end, I went back to university and trained as a psychotherapist and a naturopath, so I could have some skill level to help people with.
And how did the meeting with Osho actually happen?
Oh, well, I had a publishing company, so I did journalism. And when I got to the ranch, I realised that if I wanted to talk to Osho, I had to have a reason to talk to him, so I had to be a journalist. So I rang up the New York Bulletin and told them that I was a journalist from Australia. It looked like the National Guard were going to come over the fences here and take control of the ranch. Would you like to hire me as a freelance journalist? And they said yes. And I said, well, can you send that back to the people here so they can recognise me as working for you? And they did. And that's how I got the interview with Osho.
And why did you want to meet him? At that point, he was obviously very globally known. It was quite a big movement, especially in Fremantle, where I believe your publishing press was. Was that it? It was the fact that this guy is so talked about that I need to go see him?
No, I was fascinated by him. He was a creature of a different kind, and I hadn't met this kind before. I wanted to see him and talk to him, but I had my mind blown away while I was on air and lost it and found out that there was a very different type of person in front of me. Here was a person who wasn't there. He was talking, but there was no one talking. It was like talking to a nobody or a nothing. And his energy field just blew me away, and I loved it.
What was it like? Can you describe it?
Well, I lost the ability to think. So I had the questions in front of me and I was reading them one word at a time, not knowing what the previous word was or not knowing what the next word was coming. I was so caught in the moment that I could only read one word at a time. That was the experience with him. And I tended to repeat the questions which he had a go at me over.
I've only had that feeling if I've ever been on drugs, so I can't even relate to that.
Yeah, I've tried different drugs, but nothing was as powerful as sitting in front of Osho. He was amazing.
A lot of people have mentioned that. So at that moment, that changed where you basically dropped the capitalistic desire. And you said, now I want to focus on internally.
It took a little while to drop the capitalistic desire to gain more and more and more, because I had been brought up on that. I'd been programmed with that at Aquinas. And so I went and did an encounter group in Italy with a guy called Paul Lowe for 5 months. And during that period, I realised I was still wearing the armour that I'd put on to be a businessman. And I didn't want to be wearing armour. And so I was down by the lake and I decided I want to take this armour off. So I took it off, metaphysically, and...
You mean like a suit?
It was like a suit. And then I turned around and it was back on again. And I realised it was the connection I had to my companies back in Perth that was keeping me locked in a warlike mode, because for me, business was war. And I went back to Australia and I walked into my companies, I walked into the staff and I said, here, you may have my companies, I don't want to have anything to do with them ever again. And they wouldn't accept it. So I had to go back the following week and give it back to them again and walk out. And they got the companies and they got 14 offices full of furniture. And I walked out as a total bum and I just loved it. I loved being a nobody going nowhere, because now I could truly pursue my heart, because the big businessman, the tough guy, was in the way of my heart. And I knew it. And to me, at that stage, heart was the only thing of value on this planet. Love.
Which is very hard for me to comprehend, because we always feel like business, material gain, getting the bigger house, bigger car, having all the things in life is what we all work towards.
Yeah.
So to actually comprehend giving all of that away for heart doesn't even make sense to me. I don't know how you came to that realization.
33 years old, and I realised, because I had an experience at sea that year. I got lost at sea, going over to the Abrolhos Islands. I went across in a runabout and at high speed, and a cyclone came in because I hadn't checked the weather. And this cyclone came in so powerfully that it took us out to sea, 60 miles out to sea, 100 kilometres. And we were being circled by sharks the whole time. We're out there and we're in the water, the boat sunk, and we were in the water just sitting inside the hull, but the boat had sunk for 18 hours and I had hypothermia. And I looked across at my girlfriend, my next wife, and
we should do the title by the end of it.
That'd be good. Looked across at my girlfriend, and what came up was this regret, because I'd taken her out there and I knew we were going to die. I didn't think we had a chance of survival. We were going to get eaten by sharks. And
do you mind asking where it was? Where was?
Off the Abrolhos Islands,
yes.
West Australia, 60 miles out. During the cyclone, the waves were huge, were coming over the boat. And I looked across at her and I was just filled with this overwhelming love after I felt this regret that she was going to die because I hadn't checked the weather and I'd taken her out there. And that was my first indication that there was something very beautiful in this world that I hadn't yet perceived. Unconditional love. It just overwhelmed me. And we did get rescued. We got rescued at 2 o'clock in the morning by a ship called the BP Endeavour. And that was amazing that we got rescued, because I didn't think we had a hope in hell.
So another transformative moment.
It was very much a transformative moment because it had me look for heart. It's what eventually had taken me to Italy to be with Paul Lowe and do the encounter group. And there I realised what was in the way of my heart. It was the businessman. The businessman was so tough, so hard, so warlike, that there was so many defences, so many places where resistance was held, that I couldn't find love. Once I found love, all I wanted to do was be in service. All I wanted to do was help other people, but I didn't have the skill set, so I went back to uni.
Right, and to put this in a timeline, was you were doing a publishing press, then you went, was it to Italy first, or did you go to Pune first and then back to Italy?
No, I went to Italy first, and I went to Pune a couple of years later, and I saw him just before he died. It was a few months before he died. I was there.
Because you had one of the most pivotal interviews at that moment. That interview was widely published, right?
Okay, I'm talking about the second time I went to Pune, met him, in Pune. The first time I met him in America, and that was 1985.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a different time. That was a wonderful, wonderful adventure, amazing adventure. I was there when he was arrested, and I had a journalist card, so I could interview everyone. I had access to everywhere. It was beautiful. He changed my life, though. He was very instrumental.
So the C and then him, then that was like a double stacking. And at that point, you were like, I don't need any of this worldly things.
It's not that I didn't think I needed the worldly things. I just didn't want to be a businessman anywhere more. I realised that I'd become a warrior. I'd taken business as a military operation. I'd read The Art of War when I was 21, and I'd read it a lot of times.
What a good book.
Well, it was a very good book for success in business, but it wasn't a very good book for success in heart. And so I had to learn to take off all the defence systems that were in the way, down everything that was in the way. And because you find heart when you're vulnerable, not when you're closed, not when you're in defence of anything. And I'd developed a lot of unconscious defence systems, like everybody else, and they had to be undone as well. And the only thing that was worth doing, once I found heart, was being in service, being in Seva.
And then when did you come back to Perth then?
Well, I ended up travelling around Australia, because when I realised I didn't have heart, I actually took my shoes off after I gave my companies away and walked around Australia for 4 years, basically, barefoot.
Why do that, Vishrant? That sounds crazy.
Yeah, you could say it was crazy, but I knew that the big somebody that I'd become was in the way, and I needed to become a nobody going nowhere to find my heart. And so I travelled around Australia barefoot. I told no one about my past, and I eventually became a nobody going nowhere, and I found my heart in that openness, in that genuineness, in that reality. And it was the best thing I'd ever done. I felt like I'd wasted 33 years of my life pursuing business, pursuing success in the financial world. And it was lovely to get back to reality, because heart or love is reality, not money.
And where did you walk in those 4 years?
Well, I hitchhiked.
Nice soft parts where there's no stones on the way?
The soles of my feet ended up thick as, because I actually didn't take my shoes off. I just kept walking. I went through Ayers Rock, I went through Queensland, I went through New South Wales, I went through Victoria.
Wow.
I loved
Walked the whole way?
No, I didn't walk the whole way. I walked some of the way. Some of the times people would respond to my thumb. Hitchhiking.
Right.
Yeah. But I just enjoyed it. I met different people, and I got to be ordinary, because I'd been special for so long as a successful man, successful young man. And it was nice to be ordinary. The beauty of ordinary is nobody wants anything from you. As a businessman, everybody wanted something from me, and I tended to give people things, but it was always from a selfish position. It wasn't truly from an altruistic or selfless position. I had to learn to become selfless. I had to practice it to become selfless. Because selflessness is the way of the heart.
And at what moment did you, or maybe I can reword this question, how did you realize you were enlightened at a certain point? Like, is there a moment, is there a trigger, is there something you feel? Because I have, clearly, as you can tell, I'm nowhere near there, but I'm wondering, how does one get to that moment?
So you come into the presence of someone who's awake and you feel the presence. And in feeling the presence, you tune into them. You tune into that presence. And in tuning into the presence, for me, I found that I disappeared as an I. And I could just feel the presence, and I felt the universe as myself to some degree. Not just what I could see, but everything. And every particle of it was love. And this is what's called a satori. And every time I came into the presence of one of my awake teachers, I would experience this spaciousness, this oneness with the universe, and love, this unconditional love. And so one day, after being in retreat for 2 weeks with an awake teacher, it never went away. And it hasn't gone away now for 26 years.
So every moment, you're, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not connected to your thoughts, you're feeling everything right now.
Pretty much. I'm feeling everyone in this room.
Who feels the best? You have to say me, of course.
I don't lie.
Shots have been fired. So you it's not only people then, you're connected to the world essentially. Everything is one. Am I getting this right? Because I'm trying to...
Everything is one and everything is God. Everything is one and everything is God. And everything is love. And that's the perception I have of life because of where I'm at. But that's not the perception I had when I was ego-based, because everything was separate from me when I was ego-based, and everything wasn't love. It was very different. But in finding self as truth, I found that everything is one. We are one. I'm interviewing myself right now.
You better ask better questions, Vishrant.
I'm actually currently very happy with the interview.
Well, because you're controlling it. So how did you know that that's what happened? Like, because for someone who isn't able to ever feel that, I don't know if I've ever felt what that is. Okay. How does someone believe that you're in that state?
Okay, so I've been a sensitive since I've been a boy, probably because of the violence that was inflicted on me as a child. I became very open and very sensitive as a very young child, and so I would have been considered what's considered an empath. I can feel people, and I can tell what they're feeling, and because I can read their energy, I'm a lot safer, because that's where I think I originally started reading people's energy to protect myself, particularly from angry people. But how do you feel it? You either feel it or you don't feel it. Let's put it that way. You either feel it or you don't. I had to open up a fair bit because the first time I met Osho, I didn't feel him that strongly because I still had my businessman cloak on. The next time I met him, I had opened up a great deal and I felt him like incredibly strong. And so these guys here feel me. They feel me. And that's why they're here. They're not here for the teachings, because the teachings, you can get the teachings in a library. You can get the teachings off a lot of people. It's the actual feeling that they feel, the Buddha field that they feel, that attracts them to be here with me. Not my teaching, though my teaching's fun.
So essentially, the way someone will believe what what you feel is by feeling it themselves.
Yes.
Because what people will question is, are you just saying a bunch of things and it sounds good or whatever? I'm imagining that's the pushback. People go, oh, he's just saying a bunch of things. Is he actually awakened? But they must feel what this is.
No, I have about 170,000 people who can feel me worldwide. And that's why they're with me. Not because of what I say, but because they can feel what's in the words, what's the vibration that's with them. The vibration that is Vishrant's Buddha field, which is simply that's aware of the mind, aware of itself. And so in most human beings, there's something aware of the mind, but that awareness goes through the mind, and it's aware of thoughts, and it's aware of the world out there through the senses, but it's not aware of itself. Someone who's enlightened has awareness aware of itself, and it's continuous. If it's not continuous, it's not enlightenment. And so that Buddha field that I'm talking about, or that field of energy that these guys feel, is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's been that way now for 26 years. So that's... I can work on you.
What are you feeling?
A certain level of closure, but that's because of your professionalism. You're really good at what you do, and it's put you into a certain mode, but that mode has a certain closure in it. And unfortunately, closure stops you from sensing the finer things in life. And you may not be like this when you're with your children, or you're with a dog, or you're with your partner. But when you've got your professional mode on, and this is what I noticed about myself as a professional businessman, I was too closed to perceive heart. Because I had a professional mode on, which had defences in it, resistances in it.
It's very true, because anytime and I don't know what it is, anytime I hear someone talk about spirituality, religion, higher kind of vague terminology that I can't put into words, defense goes up, because I always, excuse my language, I always think it's bullshit. And I don't know why. I'm always like this, what you're saying makes sense, but I would still go, is he talking bullshit?
Yeah, I understand. I have a great bullshit detector myself.
That's why you let us in. How does someone overcome that?
Well, I let you in because one of the things I do in my meetings is I encourage people to challenge me. Because I don't want people to believe me. I don't want people to take anything on faith. I want people to find out for themselves what's going on inside of themselves. Not believe me. I think when people swallow beliefs, they get caught in faith. When they get caught in faith, they get caught in false religions. I love reality. I don't like superstition. I don't like smells and bells. I like reality. And so I try to teach people reality.
Yeah, everything you're saying, it seems like it's something that your story has led you to where you are, and it's something you feel deep within. It doesn't sound like someone who's just saying things that I've heard people say in the past. I wonder, how do you then prevent people idolizing you? They must go idolize Vishrant because he seems to be awake for 26 years. He knows the things to say. You can feel energy, and it can become down the path of like what happened to Osho, essentially.
We all have our own roles, and I have many roles. One of my favourite is the bogan.
We can agree on that. That's one point we can agree on.
I enjoy the bogan role, but none of it's me. None of those roles are me. I'm well beyond all of those roles. But I play whatever role I need to meet people. I meet them where they're at. I don't expect them to meet me where I'm at. Because if you really want to meet me where I'm at, you have to meet me in silence. So I meet you in words, and I meet you in gestures that make you feel comfortable to talk to me. And so I can do real bogan, mate. We have a VB and you can tell me your problems.
We can go as hard as you want. That's my lane. I'm good with that. But how do you prevent not going down a similar path where people will obsess over everything you do?
They do. They do obsess over everything I do. And I just keep telling them to be real. Because I see myself not as a spiritual teacher, but as a reality teacher. I don't teach smells and bells, superstition. I'm only teaching pragmatic ways to get free of suffering, basically. And the pragmatic way to get free of suffering is to learn to accept life as it is and let go of things. The two things people can't do. They can't accept life as it is and they won't let go of things. And so they suffer accordingly. But if you can master acceptance and you can master let go, you can be free.
So most of the time you must feel happy, is that right?
I'm happy all the time. I'm not just,
that I don't believe, there's no way.
I'm not just happy, I'm high as a kite. I'm high as a kite right now. I'm just...
What's in that tea, Vishrant?
Yeah, right. I'm just practiced at being high. You know, I am on top of the world right now and I'm loving it.
So it would be like a feel, because I've felt being high, like, you know, using
Drugs.
Substance to be
LSD.
high. I haven't gone that far. Maybe that's the next step. Like say smoking weed, right?
Nothing like it. More like LSD. Smoking weed takes you into a dreamland. That's what it does. It's a dream drug. And I'm totally against that because I like reality. But I did use LSD to have a look at my mind in a float tank, because I owned a float tank and I used to go in it for up to 6 hours watching my mind on LSD. And I got to see what an asshole I was. And I decided to change my life. I decided that I wanted to serve humanity rather than take from humanity and move into a life of the way of the heart. It's very different.
And then why not just not do all of this? Because isn't this kind of a business?
This is an extension where people can come if they're interested. If they're interested. I can't just... If I want to influence people, if I want to help people by influencing them, I have to have a place where they can come. And this is the place. This is the place. It's like an ashram, but it's not really. It's Restful Waters, and it's a wellness centre. It's where people come for yoga and counselling and Pilates, and I also do meetings here.
Well, that's what I wonder. Like, isn't it now combining both? You've got the business world and what you wanted to avoid by having now essentially business where if you're just happy, why do all of this? Or am I getting it wrong?
Well, something has to pay the bills. And so the Restful Waters side of it, which is the wellness centre, pays its way, because this property costs millions of dollars. And so it has to be paid for. The mortgage, the insurances, the maintenance, it all has to be paid for somehow. And so it does. It gets paid for by operating as a wellness centre and also operating as part of what I do. You know, I still live in the material world, man. You still got to pay your bills.
I completely get that, and that's the thing that's hard to understand. And you could just say live a very simpler life and not have to take on all of this because you're a successful businessman and you wanted to avoid taking on $1 million property, which is beautiful. I love it.
I am independently wealthy. I don't need to work. I do this because I love people. I love people. I love you, man. I can't help it.
I love you too.
And it's a love affair for me to do what I do. It's actually a love affair with humanity and with this planet. And I don't see any way of saving this planet in any other way but helping people raise their consciousness levels, because lower consciousness is killing this planet. So the way is selflessness, which is unusual because most people are selfish.
So do you have any aspirations of having nice things? Do you drive like nice cars and stuff?
I have lovely cars. I drive a Mustang.
You're stuck, Vishrant. You're stuck. Maybe I should help you get a worse car. You can drive mine.
No, well, I invested in real estate a long, long time ago, and I sold a lot of it off, so now I have a few of the toys. But I'm not attached to any of them, I just play with them, because one of the things that happens when you wake up is you become like a little kid again, because you live in the moment. You're not living in some dream about later. And so I've now got the adult toys to play with, and I just play. If you ever came to Coles with me, I shop at Coles twice a week because we run meals, and I just dance down the aisles, mate. I love it. All the colours, the bright colours, all the products, the music. People look, they think it's a bit strange, but I still dance.
It's great. It's great to be happy. What else is life about? Joy, dance, be like child. When I see my children, I have 2 young kids, 5 and 3 essentially, see them, they just see the world as it is. I assume they're just present all the time, like what you're potentially feeling. And I see that they just find joy in the most ridiculous things. They'll see like an ant and they'll look at the ant for so long and start flicking it, playing with it. And I go, that's so boring. Can we go do something interesting, like watch TV? You know, and then I think back and I go, how amazing is it that they don't have the layers of an onion that we have, that I'm on the outside layer, and to get to peel myself back to that original layer is near impossible.
Well, it's not impossible, but it's difficult. But that's actually what I did. I peeled all the layers back, and so I could be real. And part of that is present moment awareness, which we lose when we go to school, because we're stuck in class for 12 years learning to solve problems. So we come out of school just as problem solvers, basically living in our heads, not reality anymore. And this is the sadness of the world, because problem solving is not that joyful. Because it involves resistance, it creates suffering. And that's how we've all been brainwashed and programmed by our own schooling system to be efficient little thinking machines, but not in reality, in our heads. Reality is what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you taste, what you smell. That's real. What you think about it is not real. It's imagined. I love reality. I love being real. And so I tell people what I see to try to help them be real. Sometimes they get upset, like telling you that you were defended and a little bit closed. I could have upset you. But
Nothing you can say will upset me. I'm okay. Got thick skin.
But that was the truth, and as I see it.
Yes.
And so that's what I do nowadays with my students. I tell them the truth about what I can see, and sometimes they love it, and sometimes they get upset. But I don't water it down. I serve it up cordial strength.
And what sort of backlash have you had to deal with?
Oh, look, the moment you start telling people the truth, you put a target on your back and you put a target on your front. And you'll get shot to pieces by everybody, but usually it'll be behind your back. It's never in front of you. It's usually behind your back by a bunch of people who couldn't handle the truth in the first place.
Anything specific?
Oh, look, over the years there's been numerous occasions where I've been attacked, both mostly publicly, but behind my back. No one stands in front of me and says, hey, you're doing this wrong. And usually it's lies, it's not truths, usually. Though I am very outspoken and I am blunt, there's no doubt about that. But I think when I was a seeker, looking for truth, I was looking for teachers who would tell me the truth, not for teachers who would tell me how well I was doing, kissing my bottom. I wanted people who was telling me that what was in my way. And so I went around the world looking for these type of teachers who could see me and who were prepared to tell me what they could see, because they are invaluable. Unfortunately, it's not what a lot of people want. They just want to be told how lovely they're doing. But that doesn't help them, you know. What helps is being shown what's in the way, the obstacles that are in the way of freedom, the happiness, not suffering. Like, I don't reckon I've suffered much in this life because I removed victim-orientated thinking from my repertoire when I was 19. What's that worth?
Everything. Invaluable.
I would say that. The other thing I removed at the same time was worry, because I was a worrier. And I recognised that worry was a program that had been passed to me by my mum, and it doesn't change anything. No amount of worry changes anything. It's just a burden. So I stopped worrying and I stopped being a victim of life. And as a result, I've had a reasonably decent life. You know, not much suffering.
And seeing the journey of what happened with Osho and Rajneesh, and then how it became quite toxic, does that worry you that now you as a spiritual leader, you've got to be mindful of that being a warning because it became manipulative, it became
of course,
divisive, it became essentially like a cult in the end?
Well, you've got to look at the definition of cult. A cult is any group of people that's different from the main group of people. And so a football club's a cult. You know, your football club's a cult. The word cult has been thrown around a fair bit. But any religion is a cult. All religions are cults. So you've got to understand that. And as far as the Rajneesh religion is concerned, I learnt a great deal on how not to do it by watching how they did it, because it was really mucked up. Not by Osho, but by his followers.
A lot by Sheila, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I'd say a lot by Sheila, yeah.
You would have crossed paths with her at some point?
Yeah, we were kind of friends. When she came to Perth, I used to see her back in the early 80s. But I eventually went on to television telling people all about her, because I saw what she was doing and I saw how bad she was for Osho. And I went on television, I came in and I trusted her, and she led me astray big time on the stock market.
On the stock market of all things.
Yeah, well, she had these shares in a company and she wanted to ramp the shares up. So she rings me up one night and says, look, you should buy these shares. And I bought the shares, millions of them. And they went down the next day because she sold all hers on the rise. And so I lost about $150,000 overnight. And they had me on the video, that was Channel 9 or Channel 7 or someone. And I was coming in my Porsche and going out on a moped. It was so much fun.
And this is why I think sometimes people become skeptical of leaders, because they like stories like this, where they become and manipulated someone like you, who probably had the right intentions to learn, and then she said, you believe everything I do, and then gives them a chance to manipulate you.
That's a possibility, yes. If a person hasn't found heart, they need morality. Someone who's found heart doesn't need morality, because they will take care of everybody no matter what.
So how do you steer clear? How do you go, I'm not ever going to be in that line where you have the power to manipulate? You can manipulate me, I believe everything you say.
I love you. Why would I hurt you? It's love that softens everything. It's love that has you care for everyone. It's love that makes sure you don't hurt anyone, because you just don't feel like it when you're experiencing love. Love is the magic ingredient. It's the true jewel of consciousness.
And how do I build a certain level of that love? Like, what should I do to get one step closer to it?
Move into service. Siva.
What would that entail? What does that mean?
Well, for me, it began with me mowing people's lawns for free and washing their cars, because I was looking to find my heart when I was walking around Australia, and that's what I did. I'd mow people's lawns, I'd wash their cars, I'd vacuum their floors, I'd do their dishes. I'd do things that I'd never used to do because I had servants when I was a publisher. But I realised that I had to get back to being ordinary, and being ordinary meant being in service and taking care of people. And so in finding heart, it was also moving into service, or Siva. and that matched. There was a match-up. And so instead of operating from a selfish position, operating from a selfless position. And selflessness is beautiful. Selfishness is the only sin on the planet.
And which feels like to me is just general human nature.
Unfortunately, yes, it is. It's why we're in so much trouble on this planet. Selfishness is ruining it. And the only possibility to save it is selflessness, and that means people have to raise their consciousness levels to a level where they start experiencing unconditional love or heart, which is difficult because I don't think there's much of a desire for that, you know? And so my teaching is trying to teach that as a way of life, the way of the heart, the noble path as they call it in Buddhism.
And then why charge for your teaching?
Because the bills have to be paid. And also, one of the things I learned at a very young age is if people don't pay for something, they don't value it. And so there is a charge for whatever.
But wouldn't it be truly selfless not to charge?
It would be, but it wouldn't help people. What helps people is giving them something that they value. And unless they pay for it, they don't tend to value it. It's that simple. It's human nature.
And then could it be a circular thing where you charge and then you give the money, as opposed to keeping it?
What I do is I work 12 hours a day, every day, in service, and I don't charge. The organisation I work for, the Buddhist Society, charges, and it runs everything. I only teach. I don't do anything else. We have managers and we have gardeners, we have all sorts of people who do jobs, but they all have to get paid. And this whole thing wouldn't run unless we had money coming in to pay the people who work here, and the insurances and the mortgages and whatever else. And so it's a matter of financial success needed to run a spiritual group, to run a spiritual organisation. Because if you don't have the money, how can you pay the mortgages? How can you pay the insurances? How can you do anything really? It's business.
Well, that's the part I understand the rest of it, but that part I still get confused, where I wonder why take on things where you've got to pay certain people, you've got to have maintenance, you've got to build a property, you've got to obviously have insurance, mortgages, operational costs, whereas your teaching is invaluable without any of all of this. And the more selfless it can be, because then people will start to see, isn't this selfish?
You could look at it that way. But the old businessman in me that knows how to make it work in the world is not dead. The old programs are still there, you know. I know how to make it work. And it doesn't work playing poor. It doesn't work. You need money to get out to the world. Like currently we've got a guy working for us who's helping us with the internet. Now he's costing us an arm and a leg, but he's worth it because it's getting the message out to thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And the message is just on how to be happy. It's not necessarily on spirituality. How to be happy in this world, because we weren't taught that at school. We weren't taught how to be happy, and we weren't taught how to love. The two things that we actually want, we weren't taught. And so I'm teaching that.
So, sorry to harp on the point. I just think that'll be an interesting point for people to understand. Why not just do that from your house, for example?
I still would have to pay for my house. I'd still have to pay.
And of course, you have to live. I understand that part. But then it's like there's a step above that, right? This is my way of thinking. It'll give me clarity to understand how you think through a situation. I would go, okay, I'm happy, I'm content. You've been happy consistently for 26 years. I don't need to take on something which is now a business, which you tried to avoid over those years. Of course, you have a nice house. You don't want to have a terrible house. Have a nice house that can be serviced from whatever, right? Like your teachings pays for the house, and that's happiness enough. Why go to such a beautiful place, which becomes a business? Am I getting it wrong?
Yeah, okay. Life is the way it is. We live in a world that people value money, they value properties. And to be able to be in the world, in this world, and deliver, there has to be somewhere to deliver from, rather than rent. During the day, we go back 26 years, I was working as a naturopath and psychotherapist. I used to charge, and I paid rent. And that was okay. I used to charge because people expected to be paid, to pay, and they also understood that if you get something for free, it's probably not worth anything. And that's where I learned that you have to charge. You have to charge no matter what. But the collecting of anything is a pain, because you then have the responsibility of taking care of it.
Mental baggage.
Fortunately, I'm not attached to anything, and so I don't care. But I do know that to get the message out properly, I have to have a functional facility to do it. Not just the internet, but a property where people can come, a place where it can happen. And so that's happened. Now, I didn't do that. That was done by management, people who were in charge of what I was doing. I just teach. 26 years ago, I used to work maybe 4 or 5 hours a day and charge a certain amount of money for that. Nowadays, I work 12 hours a day and I don't charge. I don't charge for counselling, and I see people constantly. If you and I weren't talking, I would have been on the phone a dozen times already talking to someone about their problems. And that's my giving back, because I love to give. That's my whole life, is to give. Seva, service to others.
Because you've spent so long learning those things, then it's only, I guess, returning the favour by letting other people shortcut to get to where they need to go.
It's not a business deal. That's a business deal. It's because I love humanity. I love people. I love to do what I do. It's a love affair. It's not a business deal. It's not I'm paying back anything. It's a love affair, and it's different. You know, when I say I love you, I actually love you.
Me too. Yeah, I'm saying it honestly. I can feel a very positive energy from you. So it is definitely a warm energy. I'm not getting the usual kind of detachment.
No, well, I'm like this all the time.
So there's steps I need to go to get there eventually.
Yeah, the way is seva, service. You've just got to find a way of doing your service, because in a way you do service from a very relaxed space instead of an uptight place, which is hard because you challenge people. And when you challenge people, there's always potential of something coming back that mightn't be nice. But you have to be open enough to actually make that okay. And then you can be relaxed all the time. Because if you're okay with the consequences of whatever, you don't tighten up. You can stay relaxed. And so it's up to you. You want to find heart, you stay relaxed, because you don't find heart when you're uptight. You just don't. You find it when you're relaxed. And so anything that can relax you is worthwhile.
Yeah, which is also the basis of Sikhism. Seva is like the foundation, one of the foundational principles is to always serve. So
yeah.
it is when you go to a Sikh temple, you go to, say, the Golden Temple in Amritsar, there's so many people, I don't know the number, hundreds of thousands of people being fed for free every single day.
Yep.
And that's done from the seva of the community.
Yep.
And so it is something ingrained from a young age into young kids who are part of that religion, that is what you do.
Yeah.
So we go to the temple and you do seva, and you feel good.
Yeah.
You do feel good.
It has to be taken into every part of your life, with your neighbours, with the people you meet. Like if I go to Coles and go shopping, I'm smiling at everyone. I'll say hello to just about anyone, because that's a part of seva as well. There's so many lonely people out there who just want a hello, you know? And so I supply that hello as often as I can, as many times as I can. Hello.
Amazing. And final question is, how would you provide guidance to someone to know who's an actual honest spiritual teacher and someone who's potentially a charlatan?
Okay, that's a good question. The only way you can tell is the Buddha field, the field of energy around them. Someone who doesn't have a Buddha field or a field of energy around them that is nourishing and warm and lovely is probably a charlatan.
And is it just a feeling, right? Like the feeling I'm getting from you?
It's the feeling you're getting from me, yeah. That's the only way you can tell, because anyone can learn the words, anyone can study Sikhism and quote Nanak's words, but how does that help? You know, like, they could be a fraud. You know, anyone can be a preacher, stand up on a box and say this is the way, but are they living that? And so when I first woke up, I wanted people to trust me, my students to trust me, so I allowed them to live with me so they could watch me to see if I was walking my talk or if I was a bullshit. And I was walking my talk. That's why I invited them to live with me. I wasn't hiding anything. That's why after every meeting or beginning of every meeting, I ask people if they want to challenge anything I've said. Because I don't want people to believe me. I want people to find out for themselves through their own direct experience, not through faith in something someone has said. And with the fake gurus, the problem is they're lost. How can they help anyone, really? You know, someone who's awake has an energy field around them continuously. That's the only way you can truly tell, because anyone can learn the words.
And in a time like now with social media, it is so prevalent, Vishrant. You can see, you log in, there are hundreds and hundreds of people claiming all kinds of stuff.
There are.
So it is actually a very important question for someone like yourself who's awakened and is trying to do potentially the right thing for people. Is there are so many people that are all trying to do scammy.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, scammy shit. It's just it's all garbage. Like you know, I'm a life coach and you're 21 years of age and you're like, you haven't even lived life. And then there's people trying to give you courses and, you know, lessons to get to enlightenment quicker, which already sounds like an oxymoron, right?
Yeah.
And it's very hard to filter through and go, how does one know that I'm going to commit to this person? I'm not going to get manipulated.
Yeah, it's very true. There are a lot of scammers out there. And buyer beware. I invite people to come and sit and listen to me and talk, and I live what I teach. I don't just teach it, I live it. And that example is to everyone who hangs out with me. But it is difficult, you know, like there are a lot of people who have charisma who are selling God, and they shouldn't be, but they are. If they're not selling service, they're on the wrong path as far as I'm concerned. Because if you're really into heart, you're selling service. You're selling the idea of being in service. Siva.
Right, so every time someone is in that, they should be providing some level of service. That's what it is.
I see it that way, yeah. Because if we were all helping each other, what a beautiful world this would be. If we were all helping each other, that would be Siva or service. What a beautiful world this would be. Where would there be wars? There wouldn't be any. There wouldn't be any murders. There wouldn't be any rapes. Selfishness is the only sin on this planet.
Very true. And I know I said final question. This will definitely be the final question. Is why did you change your name?
I was given the name Vishrant by Osho 41 years ago, and I changed it because I chose to be his sannyasin, and he accepted me as his sannyasin. And my name was Swami Prem Vishrant, which was really difficult for me to wear because I had been a businessman in a three-piece suit for years, and all of a sudden I had to wear orange clothes, a mala with a picture of an Indian guru on it, and I had to be called Vishrant. It's like, God, it was tough, man. It was tough. My mother wouldn't speak to me.
I kind of thought you were Indian, but then I realized your original name was Vincent. Is that correct?
Yeah, Vincent. Yeah. I'm Vincent Cooper the third, actually. Yeah. But I don't use the name Vincent ever. I was given this name because I wrote to the ranch asking for sannyas, and I told them I'd like to come there and help them run it. And they send me back this name that means relaxed. Vishrant actually literally means relax or restful.
And prem means love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Restful
love. Yeah. Sounds amazing. No wonder the many girlfriends. And why? So is everyone that has prem is a sannyasin of Osho? Is that what it is?
Or a sannyasin of mine.
Also, if there's a sannyasin of yours, also gets the last name. Was it last name?
First name, prem. Yeah. Or Deva, sometimes Deva, or Anand, sometimes. But basically, it's like when you take sannyas, you want to drop the old life to some degree because you've taken a new life on. And that life doesn't involve capitalistic ideals. It involves being in service, being in seva. And so you drop the old name and take on a new name and take on a different way of living. It's a brand new beginning. It's a fresh beginning. So for me, it was a fresh beginning to become Swami Prem Vishrant. Yeah, and not be Indian.
All right. So everyone that changes their name, that's the reasoning behind it.
No, that's my reasoning. That's my reasoning behind it. That's not necessarily the reasoning behind it. You asked me why I did it. Yeah.
No, people that join your sannyas, they also have to change their name. Is that correct?
They don't have to change their name. They don't have to ask for sannyas. But if they do, and they do, I give them a new name, and usually that name is a sadhana. A sadhana is something with a message in it. Like my sadhana was relax. That's why I got the name Vishrant. You need to relax, buddy.
I would probably get the same. I can understand. I would need something relaxing because I'm always
intense.
Always intense, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like that too. But I learned how to become relaxed. I learned how to become cool, what I call true cool. And true cool accepts anything that comes. It doesn't fight with the world.
And a sannyas lives with you? Is that what it is?
Sannyas?
Yes, if someone becomes a sannyasin of yours, do they live with you?
No, not at all. I've got sannyasins all over the world. This might surprise you, but I've got Sikh sannyasins.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
And so what does that involve? Sorry, I'm not familiar with it at all.
Ah, you're not? Okay.
I mean, I'm familiar with Sikhism, but not the...
Yes, to be a sannyasin, you've become my student. And I've become your teacher. And we're using Sanskrit words to describe that relationship. And so a sannyasin is a student, a seeker of wisdom and truth. And I'm a teacher of wisdom and truth. And so that's the relationship. But we're using Sanskrit names because it originated in India. This didn't originate in the West. The West hasn't got a clue about the subject of enlightenment. It originated in the West, in the East, in India.
Yes. And do they have to follow certain practices and avoid other things? Or do they live life as per normal?
They can live life as normally as they like because I don't really supervise.
So what changes for them, Vishrant?
They get an opportunity to live a different life. They get an opportunity to leave a life behind that they've had and follow a life towards enlightenment and heart. And it's a different path. You could call it a spiritual path, but I don't like the word. You know, the word's been polluted by too many religions. But it's a beautiful way of being in the world. Now, I teach a beautiful way of being in this world. If you were my student, I'd teach you how to relax.
Give me a quick tip. I would love to know how to relax.
Accept everything as it is. You see, the reason that we get uptight is because we move to non-acceptance of what is. The moment we accept something fully, the story is over. But we have all these stories about things we don't accept, and they keep us in a state of tension, a state of not relaxation. Like, just turn the news on, and you've got the wars happening around the place, and people get so disturbed by that because they're not in acceptance that this is what is. There's nothing they can do about it, but they think they can do something about it by having an opinion. that opinion just hurts them. If we can accept what is, we can be happy. If we can't accept what is, we cannot be happy. It is that simple. And it's not something that's taught at school. We're not taught to accept life. We're taught to resist life, if anything.
How does one accept? Like, do I just let go of thought?
You have to practice. You have to practice it. You have to contemplate what acceptance is and what that actually means for you. It has to be practiced. And if we practice something for long enough, we get good at it. Most of us have practiced resistance our whole life, so we're very good at that. But if we truly examine resistance, that is suffering. Acceptance takes us out of suffering. Instead of seeing the world as right, wrong, good and bad, we just see the world as what it is. This is how it is. Easy.
And practically that means if a feeling comes up that is a response to a trigger that has happened in the world,
Yep.
you're trying to, not forcefully, but in some way drop that feeling.
No, you're trying to accept what you see rather than fighting it. You see, if we're fighting something, we have a belief system that says it shouldn't be so. That belief system has an expectation on it. When the expectation is not met, we go into contraction. We don't have to go into contraction. We can accept that there's wars. We can accept that there's murders. We can accept that there's theft, that there's rape, there's whatever else. We can accept it and not suffer. Because when we go into resistance, we do suffer, but it doesn't change anything. Doesn't stop the wars, doesn't stop the murders, doesn't stop the rapes, doesn't change a damn thing. We might think it does, but it doesn't. All it does is create suffering for us. Acceptance is the key to not suffering.
And so it's not like a cognitive change. Is it like a breathing technique? It
is a cognitive change. It took me ages to learn acceptance because I was an angry young man. But in learning acceptance, I learned to be peaceful and I learned to be happy. That doesn't mean I can't move to change, because a lot of people think when you accept something, you can't change something. I can still change something, but I'm changing it from a relaxed space inside myself rather than an uptight space inside myself.
So something could still anger you?
Unlikely.
So not completely no, it can still happen.
I don't know. We'd have to find out. How good are you at pissing me off?
Well, let's try. Let's see what would piss you off.
Really?
No, let's not. Do you, are you married?
I have been.
Currently?
I'm currently in a relationship, yeah.
So something must anger you. A relationship, there are so many points as something just angers you.
Not really. I can get to a position where I don't like what's happening, but anger is another story. Anger involves a lot of blame, and I tend to not go there, just out of habit. You know, people have habits. Angry people have habits of being angry. I have habits of not being angry because I haven't supported it for so many years. We all operate out of our patterns, out of our habits. I'm actually present, and I'm not trying to meditate. I'm just present because it's my habit to be present.
Yes.
It's my habit to also be open. I don't try to be open. I am open. It's my habit. And we all operate out of these default patterns. I started changing my default patterns when I was 19 because I could see that some of them were just wrong. And I'd been taught a wrong way to live. And then I started changing them more aggressively after I ran into Rajneesh, because I could see that they didn't support what I really wanted in my life, which was love.
You're a liar. Didn't anger him. I tried. Do you have kids?
Hang on, I haven't answered.
No chance to answer, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer. Yes, I am.
Are you a madman or a savior?
I recognise that question. I'm neither. I'm neither a saviour nor a madman. I'm just an ordinary man trying to help people.
Great way to leave it. Thank you so much.
Nice to say hello to you too.
Likewise.
I have a lot of time for the Sikh religion because I recognise it as one of the true religions that it works for human beings.
Yeah, it is one of, well, I'm biased, but it is a very selfless religion.
I would agree with that. I studied Nanak.
Guru Nanak?
Yeah,
Yep.
Guru Nanak.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you once
Thank
again.
you.
Take care.